Welcome everyone, and thanks for taking a look at the 90-Day Equity Accelerator. First, I guess I need to tell you exactly what it is. So the 90-Day Equity Accelerator is a unique high-end coaching program that helps coaches, consultants, and agency owners, probably just like you, generate long-term equity deals with partners, formerly I used to call them clients as well, in 90 days or less. That's what it's all about. Okay, so if you're going to learn about the 90-Day Equity Accelerator and want to consider getting involved, you'd probably want to know about some of the results I've had with existing clients. So here are a few results. Again, these may not be typical for you, but these are a few results just to give you an idea of the kinds of results I've had with others. So I've helped tons of great people just like you make more money and get paid forever and maximize their revenue. The best example and my longest term example is Bill DeWeese. Bill is a voiceover artist. That's his primary business. He's been doing that for 17 plus years. But for the last 10 plus years, he's been working with me in the information marketing side of his voiceover business, where we find and train aspiring and existing voiceover artists to maximize their results and their numbers. So Bill's comment here is, I'm now making as much or more money from my voiceover training business than my primary business, thanks to me. So that's really an indication of what can happen over a long-term relationship, is for someone to set up their information side of their business in such a way, or to understand how to do this 90-day equity accelerator deal so that they can have a lot of money coming in, more than they would have anticipated, even from their, if you have a business, say for example, that's your primary business, this can be a secondary business that you can add something onto. Famous copywriter Bob Bly, I think it was McGraw-Hill who called him one of America's top 10 copywriters or something like that. Very well-known copywriter in the field. Bob Bly, if you want to check him out, he's at bly.com. And I've worked with Bob for a number of years, and I kind of dragged him kicking and screaming, these are his words, not mine, onto the internet. And Bob says, I explained the advantages of doing internet marketing. I sent out an email to my list and we got $9,000 in revenue. I've been missing something. This was actually from the very beginning of our relationship, in which I introduced him to this concept. And now he is one of my equity partners, in which in many instances, we have an arrangement where we split the revenue and it works out really, really well for both of us. Lastly is a gentleman named Aiden Kang. Aiden has been doing a lot of work up in Canada. He's of Korean descent and is very, very knowledgeable in internet marketing, has been working primarily in the Korean market, but he wasn't using equity as a concept. And I sort of showed him and taught him how to do that. So he said, it's been less than 2 months that I've been working with Fred. It's been amazing. We found our first equity deal within 7 days. So these are just a few examples of people that I've worked with and the kind of results that I've gotten with Bill. We've made millions of dollars over the last 10 plus years working together. With Bob, plenty of money. And with Aiden, he's been able to generate a good bit of money on his own. Okay, so some of you don't even know who I am. So let me just give you a little bit of a background here. So I've managed to scale well over 7 figures with clients ranging in all different niches and fields, from the voiceover niche, like I mentioned with Bill DeWeese, to copywriting with Bob Bly, Amazon arbitrage, which I'm doing with someone I've known for quite a while, but has recently become a partner. And so I've been doing the work that I'm teaching you about. I'm going to show you exactly how I do what I do as a result of the experience that I've had working with others. So I'm one of the original quote unquote kings of info marketing. I've been doing it since the early 90s when I was packaging information for subject matter experts, myself included, and generating lots of money online with only my brain and an internet connection, because frankly, I didn't have much more. So my superpower lies in over 12 years worth of experience in helping business owners take their existing knowledge and packaging it up into hyper profitable and scalable businesses, practically without ever having to lift a finger. I'm sometimes embarrassed about how little work that I have to do to make the money that I do. And I'm not just saying that, I mean it. There are times where I get a check and I just go, wow, I just didn't have to do a whole lot to do this. And this is really the system I'll be teaching you, which is I'm the founder and the CEO of dynamicequitycoaching.com. And this allows you to transform your static business, whatever it is, into a dynamic one that achieves fast growth with more freedom, profits, and prosperity year after year using this dynamic equity system. Well, if I know you as my audience correctly, I probably know a few things. I'm guessing about who you are, what you do, and how you feel, and the struggles that you might be having. So most coaches and or consultants fail to get equity deals right. Some of you may have tried them. A lot of times you don't really know how to do them. You may have tried them and just said, forget it, it's too much work. But you really probably, in your current situation, you're probably working on an hourly or a monthly basis, and frankly, you're working too much. So in non-equity based models, you're overworked, frustrated because you can't make the money you feel you deserve. And you do deserve it, it's just your structure isn't proper and there are a few tweaks you need to make. You're also probably dealing with difficult clients, many of whom are helping you to pay your own bills, and you're putting up with them because you can't do it any other way. You need to take those monthly or hourly retainers that you're getting, and you're having to put up with people that are frankly kind of difficult on a regular basis. As a result, there's a lot of stress going on. When you have to keep working in order to generate cash, you no longer have the free time to spend with your family or doing the things that you love. And that's what this business has done for me, and this model has done for me. And it's something that I think you can learn from yourselves and really maximize. Okay, so I think a little bit about you and the fact that you're overworked and pretty stressed out. So my 90-day accelerator, I wanted to sort of show you in kind of a one slide presentation what it takes and what it involves. And we'll get into each of these elements, in more depth and more detail. But down at the bottom, starting on the A line, which is, I call it getting the deal. All the elements along that A line are getting the deal. That includes what I call the dynamic equity blueprint, which is really defining what this animal is all about and exactly how and where you can use it. Then I'll take you through some of the different dynamic equity models. Those have to do with what kinds of deals are you going to do? What percentages might you offer or accept? You'll then need to be able to understand how to find your ideal partners, people that are a good match for you in a number of different ways. As we move up to the next tier there on closing the deal, you'll then have to, if you find an ideal partner, divide properly each of the partner's roles, your role, their role, what you should be doing, what they should be doing, and why. Once you've gotten a partner and you've divided those partner roles, we're going to talk about the sales process, which is how do you and that partner create income and opportunities via a sales call. It very seldom, now this might be done in person on occasion, but in most cases it's done over the phone, probably a Zoom call, and we'll talk about that. We then go, after you've made that sales call, you get the person to agree to it, we then move to the last element on that closing the deal line, which is the one-page agreement. And I'll give you specifics on what should be in there and a template for you to use. Going up to the top there to the last rung, which is launching the deal, we're gonna have to set the target. What are your targets? What are you trying to get to with your partner and the deal that you're doing? What are the numbers you're trying to target? Where are you trying to go with this? And then next step there is to track those numbers once you start to get things moving so that you know whether you're moving in the right direction, but you have to have meticulous tracking data set up, because if not, if you don't know where you are, you certainly don't know where you're going. And lastly, in the system, we're going to talk about optimizing your systems so that everything will maximize your revenue, your partner's revenue, your combined revenue. Everybody will be happy, and that's how we get there. Okay, well, if I've sold you on the idea of equity, let me just take you through some of the possible models that you can use. Now, I generally can tell you right off the top that your equity percentages that you're going to do with a partner should range somewhere between 10 and 50%. It will depend on how much work each of you are doing, how long the person's been in business, and a number of other factors. So when I say down here, you want to learn the different models, which I will present to you, and you're going to understand the difference between the traditional method that you're probably using now and my equity model. And you're going to learn why it is better, because the equity model is better than the traditional model all day long, as far as I'm concerned, because rather than working on an hourly or monthly basis, you have unlimited upside potential. And you also, as I've said before, end up working a lot less. So understanding how to make the transition from what you're doing now to equity, you'll learn how to take deals you currently have in place, which is great. So you already have a ready store of people who you can move from your current model into an equity model. You're going to learn how to take those deals that you currently have in place and transition them, in some cases, not all cases, into equity deals. And that's going to be your lowest hanging fruit and the place you probably want to start first. Then I'll help you understand and determine your percentage between 10 and 50% and how you figure out what that percentage will be so that both parties, both you and your partner, will feel like it's a very good deal and they will be happy to send you checks forever. Okay, so you think this will be easy? Think again. There will be people that you think might be good partners who won't. And my ultimate criteria for determining whether or not, assuming everything is financially a good deal, is would I want these people over to my house for dinner? So not everybody is going to be a good fit. And don't fool yourself into thinking they will be in hopes of landing one of these deals or landing another deal as quickly as possible. So look for people right now to start, like I said, that are already on your client list. That's the place to get going. But when you start looking elsewhere, don't rush. Don't feel like you have to get another partner today. In my case, for example, if I add one new partner every year, that's fine. That's all I want. I've been doing this now for over 12 years, and I don't have 12 partners. I've got now probably around 6. So I don't think you need to be thinking, I need to get one now. I need to get a partner right now, because then you'll end up, similar to a bad relationship, attracting people to you and working with them where it isn't a good fit, and we certainly don't want that to happen. Okay, so let's say you found a partner. It's critical that you figure out what that partner is all about, both in terms of their skill sets and their personality. So I'd like you to create an exhaustive list of your skills to bring to the table. Ask them, as I say later on here, to do the same, but create an exhaustive list of your skills, both in terms of your skill sets that you think of more in terms of business and also your personality. So number 2 is take a personality test. There are a lot of these online that you can take, and many of them will help people to understand who you are. It'll help you to understand who they are. And 3, there I say, establish a list of no-goes. So you are going to have certain things that will kill a deal. For example, if you have very strong, say, religious convictions and someone doesn't fit in with those convictions that you have, that might be a no-go for you. For example, another thing might be if someone is involved in some kind of a lifestyle that's abhorrent to you. Again, that might be another no-go. There might be some other business no-goes. I mean, if you go online and find out that they were a convicted felon who's now rehabilitated themselves, you may make that a no-go for yourself as well. Get your partner, as we're doing these things above, to do the same, for them to get an exhaustive list of their skills and to take a personality list as well. And make sure, bottom line, that you like the person. And the one question that I always, like to ask people is, what are the things that you really hate doing? What are the things you really like doing? And try and divvy those things up so that you're doing what you really like and they're doing what they really like. And chances are you can find some things that you both like to do. And then again, there'll be some things you both don't like to do, but somebody's got to get them done. So you can figure that out. But again, divide the partner's roles and make sure they're clearly established. I know this is how some of you feel or might actually behave like when you're on a sales call. Frankly, a lot of you may not like sales calls at all, and I can understand that. I actually enjoy that. And one of the elements of this program that you'll really find valuable, and I think in some cases, the single most valuable element of the 90-day accelerator is this, that since I feel so comfortable doing these sales calls, in the event that you're in my 90-day accelerator and you have a potential partner that you want me to get on the phone with you on to close that deal, I'm happy to do so. That's part of your program. I will be delighted to help you land that deal. But let's move on. So the sales call itself, closing your first equity deal, here are some things that you should have in place if you're doing it on your own or even with my help. So you want to have a sales script or an outline. You know, you're going to have a script or bullet point outline of how you're going to do this call. That's step number one. Number two is you're going to establish and have to establish authority with questions and define for the potential partner on the other end of the line the structure of the call, making sure that you take charge, you're setting the agenda, you're creating the how this is going to work deal. Next step, step three, is to get buy-in. Before moving on to the next element of your pitch, make sure you get verbal confirmation back from the potential partner before moving on. And lastly, number four, don't be afraid to say no. Be prepared to say thanks, have a nice day, move on, because not everyone is a good match. And that's one of the harder elements here, especially if you haven't yet landed a deal or you feel like you need the money, is the ability to say no. So again, sales script outline, you're going to establish authority, you're going to get buy-in, and then be able to say no if it's not a good match. Okay, so the next step is going to be talking about, we'll talk about agreements. And this is probably another one of the most valuable elements that I can give you in this program in the 90 days, which is I am going to have a sample agreement for you to use. And if you don't use my exact agreement, I can have a friend of mine who's a former lawyer who can review this agreement for us to make sure it's the right agreement, because this is where, although you want to make sure that you can basically work with someone on a handshake, you're also going to want to make sure that the agreement that you put together will hold up, that it's the right one. So don't make your agreements complicated. The last thing you want to do is to have people feel like they have to get lawyers involved to look at your agreements. It should literally be simple and easy. So make sure your agreement with your equity partners is short and sweet and does not make people scratch their head going, God, do I need a lawyer or more than one lawyer to sort out what this means? That should not be the case, and I'll show you how to do that. So what should that agreement look like, basically? This is kind of my one-page dynamic equity cheat sheet on how to do that. So let me just go through it so that you understand, because this is critical to doing this right. So first thing is, obviously, the partner's full names. You want to put in their name, then your name, and then hereafter, you can go by a nickname. So if it's Fred Gleeck and Bill DeWeese, and hereafter Fred and Bill. So you're going to have their full names. Then you're going to detail partner responsibilities, exactly what you will do. More detail, the better. Keep it simple in bullet form, and then list exactly what your partner will do. Again, the more detail, the better. The partner agreement lists your business relationship, list what it'll look like. How many times a month will you meet via phone? What are the parameters? And again, this can be put on paper in an agreement, and later on you may decide to modify this slightly, but have something there that details how often you'll get together and to discuss what kind of content will you be creating. All of those elements will go into that portion of the agreement. Then termination of the agreement. In the event that you guys get divorced, this is one where one party wants to terminate the agreement, then you've got to outline exactly how that's going to work. And the agreement that I'll show you will have different kind of parameters, which is if it happens within the first, 6 months, year, and what happens later. It's kind of like a prenup agreement, in that you'd want to define what the terms are based on the length of course of the agreement, as well as the amount of dollars that have been generated, those two things. In case one of the parties gets hit by a bus, your death of either party, that should be clearly delineated and in my case, for example, all of the monies that I am owed, which since the joke that I always make is that, using this equity system, it's so good that not only I get paid, but my kids will get paid. In the event that something happens to me and I'm no longer around, the agreements that I have in place with my partners details whom in my family will continue to receive a percentage, albeit smaller, on an ongoing basis. And this is why this becomes part of the legacy that you can create for your family. On a final note, I suggest making this agreement one page and one page only. If not, your chances of getting an agreement signed will decrease dramatically, and the chances of getting multiple lawyers involved will go up as well. My disclaimer that I put on here is, do not use this agreement, which I can provide you with. Don't use it on its own without getting your lawyer to look at it first to make any changes he or she feels is necessary, because again, this is my agreement and what I use, but I don't want to accept responsibility for anything that you use. So again, it should be a starting place and not an ending place, but it's certainly a great place to start, and will give you, I don't know, 90% of what you need. Okay, so let's assume that we've got the agreements in place, we're going, we're making this happen with a partner. So you've got to set a target, which is what are your, identify the lowest hanging fruit, but set a target as far as dollars wise before even doing that. So you're going to have some kind of a number in mind. I can remember that when I did with Bill 12 plus years ago, the one target number that we had was to get this to the point, he at the time was making $150,000 a year from voiceover. And I said to him, look, my goal is to get this business to the point where you are making at least as much money as you are from the voiceover business. Now, it didn't happen overnight. Took some time to do, but I got him to that point. So we had a target set, a very specific target set that had to do with the current amount of income that he was making. This may or may not be relevant for you, but it's certainly good to think about. So number 2 is identify potential upsells and downsells. So when you're offering something with your partner, you're going to look at not only your primary offering, but what are the things you're going to offer as upsells and downsells, and have those kind of in place and in position so that when you go out there, you don't generate leads and not have something to sell them other than your main offer, but both in the upward and downward direction. So email your list 5 times weekly with various offers. That's what we do with all my partners. We're after them and after our prospects or those people who've come into our ecosphere. We contact them on a regular basis. For some people, 5 times a week might seem excessive. Trust me, it's not. You need to be mailing that list on a regular basis. Then test different funnels to see what offers and what works. And again, never get complacent. Always be testing and trying new shit, because that's what you got to do for things to work. Okay, the 8th part, or the 8th step in the dynamic equity process, is tracking your numbers. Once you've set your target, you want to track your numbers to keep everything straight. You want to determine which tools will be used for tracking the key KPIs, I should say. If you have ClickFunnels and Google Analytics, that's great. Everybody that I talk to that seems to know about this seems to think that having high rows in addition to Google Analytics is crucial to making sure that you get the right numbers, because oftentimes Facebook numbers are wrong. So you need something, but you need to track your numbers regardless of how you do it. You have to have tracking systems in place, and tracking systems that you rely on and that you know are accurate. So you then want to decide who will be responsible for doing the tracking. Chances are this will not be you or your partner. You're probably going to want to agree to hire or use someone who knows this particularly well. And again, I would talk to someone like Chris Mercer, who's an expert in this area, and I can tell you more about him and how to get in touch with him and his folks. Lastly, you want to set up regular meetings. I do these every Wednesday morning with Bill to review all data and make any appropriate changes. So everything that we do every Wednesday, Bill and I, and with my other partners, we do it on a little bit less regular basis, but no less than, I think, twice a month. So that what you do is get together, you have a little bit of a short meeting, less than half an hour, in with the person who does the tracking, and discuss what happened, what you need to do next, what you need to do to change things if they aren't working, and how to do that. Okay. 9th and final step in the system here is to optimize your systems. Once you've got things up and rolling, and again, this may take a matter of months, it may take a matter of years. It depends on who you're working with and how fast you get things going. But regardless, once you set your target, you have your tracking in place, you're optimizing your systems to make sure you maximize and wring every dollar possible ethically out of the system. So you want to, number 1, start with your baseline statistics, look at current revenue expenses to determine a baseline or a starting point. Oftentimes, if you're working with somebody who's got an existing business, this is going to have to happen, and will also change the percentages that you might do with them as a deal. You want to have realistic goals and mutually agree to target numbers that are aspirational but attainable. So you want to make sure that you have goals that are tough to get to but can still realistically be reached. And then third, you want to have some starting point numbers, get mutual agreement that these numbers are good enough to start. They can always be revised later. So whenever you're thinking at this point, you're optimizing your systems, but again, you never know how far you can go, but you want to, again, be moving in that direction. So those are your 9 steps in order, and I hope that gives you a good idea about how this 90-day equity system will work. Okay, so I've explained the system to you. I've explained to you the program, the 90-day equity accelerator, and frankly, it's not for everyone. I mean, if you're not making at least $10,000 to $15,000 a month, this probably does make sense for you. I want to make sure that you're the right person to do this kind of a deal with. If you aren't, I apologize for taking your time. I hope some of this has been valuable to you. But again, I don't want us to get on the phone. Doesn't mean I'm not at all going to try and strong arm you and try and get you to do something, because frankly, that doesn't work for me, probably won't work for you as well. But if you are interested and you think that this is something that you'd really like to consider, then go below this screen and you'll see there's a button there to book your free call. Again, this will not be a sales call. This will be kind of a qualification call for both of us to see if we're a good match, similar to what I described in discerning whether or not you have the right partner earlier in this discussion. So I look forward to hearing from you if you're the right person. If not, have a good day.